Hi everybody, I'm Jim Skelly and this is the Global Conversation. This is the fifth mini lecture of the current semester, and I just wanted to remind you of a couple of things. One is an administrative issue, and that is primarily for the students at LCC International University and at Juniata College. And that is that I've just, at the top of the course homepage, you will find the midterm essay is now revealed. So take a look at that, and if you have any questions, drop Sadie or Ray or me a note, but it should be pretty self-evident. For the LCC students and for the Juniata students, the due date for the essay is the 18th of March. Now, if Professor Mininger wants to modify that in Lithuania, that's fine. That's up to him because he'll be doing the assessment. So please do that. Make sure you've been sending your choices for learning circles, for the study circles, to Sadie, please, so that we can get those organized, and we'll be letting you know about those very soon. For the students from Veracruz, welcome again to all of you. But you will be delayed another month given your schedule at Universidad Veracruzana. You will have another month before you need to complete the midterm essay. The other thing I want to bring to your attention, I've been very impressed with some of the, well, most of them actually, the course discussions that some of you have started. I particularly was impressed by Sylvia Waco from Juniata here, who has now exploring, which I think is a very interesting idea. I think Sadie Lutmer made some suggestion about this because Sylvia had decided that she was going to be much tighter about the way she dealt with her stuff. So one of the things that has been going on in their discussion is to talk about creating an organization called Consumers Anonymous. Well, you should see if you can get a website and create it as such. A couple of things to think about this week. I'll start with the bad news first, okay? One is that, and this comes back to the issue of energy, which we're going to be talking about sometime later in March. But let me just make this very clear to you. The problem with nuclear power is not the plants themselves, but what do you do with the radioactive waste? So they've just discovered that one of the facilities that has been storing nuclear waste, it's the Hanford facility in Washington State in the northwest of the continental United States. Now, the problem here is that this is a facility that was handling nuclear weapons and radioactive material since 1943. It's now closed, but there are 149 tanks with radioactive fluids in them. Now, the fear is there are 6 of them that are leaking, and the fear is that this water, the fluids, will enter the Columbia River with devastating consequences. And this is an example of what can happen with nuclear waste. Until that problem is solved, it's probably going to be very, very difficult to get a lot of people to support the further development of nuclear power. But as George Monbiot, one of the leading environmental activists in the United Kingdom, says, a lot more people die as a consequence of coal-fired energy plants than with nuclear plants, even if you have a disaster like Fukushima. So this is going to be an issue that we all need to think about. The weapons production at the site resulted in 475 billion gallons. That's over 1,000 billion liters of contaminated water, radioactive contaminated water, have been discharged into the soil over the lifespan of the facility. Very, very worrying. Now, one of those tanks has been leaking at a rate of 150 to 300 gallons, somewhere close to 1,000 liters. At the so you want to be thinking, my God, what are we going to do about this, right? Okay, so that's one thing to look at. An interesting issue is going to be to see how tough the United States government is with BP, otherwise known at an earlier point in time, before they tried to pretend they were a green company, known as British Petroleum. Now, British Petroleum, is now rebranded as BP. Okay, well, they're the ones who were responsible for the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico in a couple of years back. And here's one of the devastating. So it's a question of how much the U.S. government is going to fine them. Well, how many billions, and it should be a lot. But let me give you a statistic that I think is very, very interesting. Between 2000 and 2009, an average of 25 to 30 dolphins were found dead on the beaches of the Gulf of Mexico each year. This year, 13 dead dolphins were found between 13 January and 14 February alone. So if that continues on, you're going to see about 150, so a 5 or 6-fold increase over what seems to have been a more normal circumstance. The National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration has said that the dolphins and whales in the northern Gulf of Mexico, which is where the spill was, during that period, during the last 3 years since the spill, there were 865 strandings in the region. And of those, this is of whales and dolphins, of those, 95%, or over 800, were dead. Not a happy thought at all. It makes me angry. One other grim story. I'm sorry to make your Sunday evening so unhappy. But, we have to get to work on all these things. We cannot continue to just sit back and say, oh, we hope somebody else will take care of it. One of the things to take a look at is the start of the melting of the permafrost in Siberia. Permafrost covers about 24% of the landmass of the northern hemisphere. And what people worry about is this. If the permafrost in northern Canada and Siberia melts, it's going to release gases from the organic materials that have been trapped for millennia, thousands of years, underneath that permanently frozen ground. What that means is not just CO2 emissions, which is what we're struggling with now, but methane. And methane is about 27 times more potent than CO2 as a greenhouse gas. And the fear, latest issue, part of scientists, is that a 1.5 degree centigrade increase in the current temperatures is enough to start the permafrost melting. Okay, I'll send you a couple of articles about all these issues. Again, my great source in The Guardian. There's a couple of good stories. One is the rice revolution that is occurring in India without genetically modified seed, I must say. And this is what's called SRI, a system of rice intensification. They're essentially doing what farmers should be doing, using organic manures, and they're stimulating the roots of young plants and using fewer seeds. So they seem to have come to a kind of compact with nature, but yields are way up, 10 to 15% it seems, although there is some question about whether they really are counting correctly. But as one of the professors who knows about these things, a guy named Robert Chambers at the Institute for Development Studies at the University of Sussex in the south of England, says SRI is an astonishing win-win for farmers and the environment. Some scientists have been slow to recognize it and have even rubbished it in peer-reviewed journals, but its success and spread have been phenomenal. People are beginning to learn to live sustainably on the planet. Isn't that a good thing? Well, that's all the news I have for you this week. Oh, there's one other thing, actually. There's a wonderful exhibit. I'm going to send you a link to it. Wonderful photographs, environmental photographs that is taking place in April and May in London. Any of you who may be going through London, I highly recommend you see it. It's there's a competition for the environmental photographer of the year. But some of these photos are just spectacular. I'll send you a link to a slideshow, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Okay, all the best. I'll be speaking to you next week from Europe. I might be delayed a day, but we'll be in touch soon. And please do send us your choices for study circles if you haven't done that already, and also. Please continue to post in the course discussions. I think it's absolutely spectacular what some of you are doing. Okay, all the best.